Okay, I'd like to welcome my next guest. Come on in.
Hello. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. Thanks
Hey,
so
no
much
problem.
for being here.
It's good to be here. I brought some tools. I got my Phillips head screwdriver here. It's an important tool. And of course, a claw hammer. This hammer, it's your stereotypical hammer, but it is called the claw hammer. That's being the claw right there. This being the hammer part.
So is
Sorry.
this a bit?
What's this?
Is this a bit?
Well, this can have a bit. Like if you had a drill, you'd need a bit for the drill, obviously. But this is a screwdriver, sir. Use it for a lot of my major gigs, like flooring. That's what I do.
Okay, sorry, I'm just a bit confused. I thought we were gonna have a chat about stand-up comedy.
No. Unless you want me to talk about my brother, but I talk about flooring.
Your brother?
Yeah. I could talk about kind of incorporate stand-up comedy because a lot of stand-up comedy is performed on a stage, which is basically an elevated floor. I have built a few stages in my time, laid the ground flooring for a lot of comedians, if you will, including my brother. You're
not Garrett.
No. I'm his brother, Garrett. Yeah.
Garrett.
I'm actually the older brother, the wiser brother, the one, once again, who lays the floor, the groundwork for my brother a lot of times.
Okay,
yeah.
Sorry. I'm really sorry, Gareth. I'm just a bit confused. I was trying to reach, it's a bit embarrassing, but I was trying to reach your brother. I'm just trying to figure out what's wrong here.
This isn't for me? Because I was going to talk about, I was already I'm like, wow, someone wants to know about flooring. I was like, that's pretty cool. You don't really hear about podcasts about people who work in the flooring industry. I mean, I had a whole thing about linoleum, a little bit about the differences between hardwood and softwood floors, the type of shellac you can use on flooring. I even had a whole bit about tiles and grout. And I was like, grout, damn spot, I could talk about rugs if you want. That's kind of like flooring. You want rugs?
Give me 1 second. Just look through. Oh, I see what the problem is. I'm so sorry, Gareth. When I sent the email to ask you to be on the show, there was a typo. I meant to type Garrett Jamieson at hotmail.com, and I actually did type Gareth Jamieson.
Yeah, this happens a lot, actually. In fact, it happens the other way for my brother. He's gone to what he thought were corporate gigs. Turns out it was just a flooring gig. I live with them, kind of support them. I can go get them.
Oh, okay, great. You live with them. That's perfect.
Yeah, I can go get them.
That'd be great.
Is it okay? What kind of floors do you have there? Is that obviously wood, or is that faux wood? Yeah, it's fine. Okay.
That was awkward.
Coming to you from his studio apartment in Toronto, it's the Backyard Variety Tour, featuring your host, Ian Pozz.
Thank you. Sit down, please. Sit down. You're beautiful. Thank you. Hello, welcome to the show. So today's guest is going to be stand-up comedian Garrett Jamieson. Garrett helped me out a couple of years back with a little stand-up comedy special that I produced at Second City, and he's been doing the stand-up thing a long time. He's a very funny guy. Just released a comedy album not too long ago with Sporadicus, I believe. And so we're gonna have Garrett on here. We're gonna talk some comedy shop. So as I mentioned, we're gonna have Garrett Jamieson on the show today. That's gonna be very exciting. Got a terrific show for you this evening. This is episode, what did I say? 321? 321, I believe. We're all over the map with the episode. Everybody knows the episode title, or the episode number rather. Doesn't matter. But the guest name. Everyone always refers to it by the guest name. No one's gonna be like, hey, did you see episode blah 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 blah? No, they're gonna be, did you see the Garrett Jamieson episode on the Backyard Variety Tour? Today's episode is brought to you by Urinal Cakes Are Us. Urinal Cakes Are Us, and they are a business out of Tacoma, Michigan. And so we really appreciate Urinals Are Us. Urinal Cakes Are Us. Although Urinals Are Us and Urinal Kit, maybe there's a crossover store, that goes in there somewhere. Just gave away a gold mine idea. So Urinal Cakes Are Us out of Tacoma, Michigan. And I'm so happy that they sponsored today's show. Make sure you hang around after the conversation, a special musical performance by none other than the Tragically Hip. What's that? Sam Roberts. Sam Roberts will be here. So make sure you stay tuned for that. That's going to be good. Got a terrific show for you tonight. Garrett Jamieson's coming up next. I almost forgot today's secret word. Today's secret word is incognito. Incognito. Got a terrific show for you this evening. Really excited about tonight's show. So let's get into it. Let's get into the half-assed jokes. Let's see, we got half-assed jokes. Half-assed jokes. Here's one. Apps on the iPhone. Apps on the iPhone. Now, when you're considering deleting an app, it's kind of hanging there, shaking in its little boots. I feel like a hard-boiled detective interrogating the app, making it convince me why it shouldn't be deleted. I swear, don't delete me. Don't delete me. Half-assed jokes. Half-assed jokes. Here's another one I like. Another half-assed joke. Traveling. Traveling. Nobody can travel right now. Except COVID. And COVID travels by air. We do know that COVID travels by air. But does it travel by bus? My next guest is a stand-up comedian who's performed in clubs and theaters across Canada. His work has been featured on Sirius XM Canada, CBC Comedy, Comedy Network, MTV Canada, and eTalk Canada. Please help me welcome my next guest, stand-up comedian, Garrett Jamieson.
Hello?
Garrett, man. How are you? Yeah, Ian. Yeah. I know this might be a bit of a surprise. You probably didn't know that you were jumping into a podcast right now.
No, I just woke up.
I know you do stand-up comedy, and that's kind of what the podcast is about. So,
well, yeah, I used to do stand-up comedy. Sorry, I used to do stand-up comedy. Like I still technically consider myself a stand-up, but obviously during the pandemic, there's not much to stand up and or perform at anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Are you sitting down more? Hey, so got a couple questions here about the journey of your career, and just curious, why did you want to be a stand-up comedian?
Well, that's actually a good question. It's like the question, right? Why did I want to? It's kind of a sad story and happy story all at the same time. I guess.
We'll make it quick.
Okay, make it as quick as I can. So my brother, not Garrett, not that lunatic. My other brother, he was like born like really handicapped, right? And he was the oldest child, and I'm the middle child. Like I'm in the second middle. So like there's my brother Tyler, then Gareth, then myself, right? And so then and then my younger sister. And so I was like the one who got the least amount of attention. But then I couldn't bother anyone because my parents would be dealing with my two older brothers. Like they'd be teaching, like looking after Tyler and teaching Gareth how to floor properly. Like my dad was always teaching him, hang out with him. And comedy was just a way to keep the family spirits kind of up. And then I also watched this show called Caroline's Comedy Hour, an evening at the Improv. Yeah, and I'd watch those shows on A&E when we got A&E here in Manitoba. And I didn't know any of these comedians, but I just knew I wanted to be one of those people that stands in front of a brick wall and tells jokes to strangers.
Do you have a favorite club or city you performed at throughout the years?
Throughout the years? Oh, any place that finds me funny is my favorite. You can almost hate a place when you walk into it and be like, this place is gonna be horrible. But the audience, if they react to you and they love you, you're like, you know what, this place is great. I love this place. This is amazing. And some places you think are going to be wonderful, and you show up and like, yeah, there's something wrong with like the audio, or the audience doesn't enjoy you, and you're like, well, I hate this place and I never want to come back here again.
What about
like,
LA
as
and
far
New
as favorite
York?
places, any places where there's a laughter. What about them? Yeah, there's some great places in there. With LA, I don't have or I don't have any experience really with the clubs kind of scene there. But in New York, mainly there, like New York Comedy Club is an amazing place to perform. It's like a small, intimate black hole that just they love everything that comes out of my mouth. So I'm in love with that place.
That's awesome. Is that the type of place you can maybe just pop into and show up and maybe get on? Whereas LA, from what I know about comedians who do the Laugh Factory or the Store, it's a very cliquey. You got to put in time. You got to.
Well, that's exactly it. Because like I've spent a lot of time in New York, so then I got to know the people there, and we were kind of at the ground floor when this guy Emilio, he took over the New York Comedy Club. Got to know him right from the get-go, so I'm able to kind of ask him. I'm like, hey, I'm in town, may I get a spot? And he'll end up giving me a spot. Whereas in LA, I haven't spent that much time out there, so I don't know really the industry people there. That's where all those New York comedy comedians, once they get tired of New York and they can't stand the cold, they book it over to LA, and they just like, relax, and you get a really relaxed vibe from the comedians out there, which is nice compared to the New York comics who are always like angry, and but LA comics are laid back, and
depends what you want though, because I like the Dave Attell angry. I like the gritty, the New York, but then I like the LA stuff too. Everything's got its own dynamic because the cities have their own dynamic too.
Right? They all have their own little their own little like, even because I performed in one interesting place was Kuala Lumpur, and it was Kuala Lumpur. It's in Malaysia. You don't know Malaysia?
In Malaysia.
Malaysia, yeah, in Malaysia, and the comedy club out there was interesting because no matter where you go in the world, you can be a funny comic, but the local comics will always just kill because they know the workings of the city, and so they're like, we do this, and everyone's like, yeah, and then I come up being like, hey, meditation is weird, right? I meditate, but just really think about meditation. People are like, bring back the local guy.
I heard something like that, the Boston comics. I heard recently some guys were talking about it, and they said they used to get killed when they went to Boston because the local guys there in the 80s, everyone just loved, and they just rip up the room, and it didn't matter how funny or good you were. It's like you couldn't top the local guys. Interesting dynamics.
Yeah, you can't top the local guys. It's just then you're more liked by a larger group, I guess. You're more malleable to different cities. So you're funny enough to be a headliner, but not funny enough to be a local killer. Unless you visit these cities a lot, then you become an honorary local, I guess.
Yeah, I think I'm an honorary local in Sudbury because I've made enough movies and TV series up there and partied enough up there. I'm definitely an honorary local.
Isn't Sudbury wonderful?
It can be a lot of fun.
A Sudbury Saturday Night. That's why Stompin' Tom sang all about it. They have a statue about the guy.
Yeah. Pretty wild.
Is it a lot of Hallmark stuff? Do you do a lot of Hallmark stuff up there?
No, I try to avoid those. No, I avoid those. I avoid those like the plague. I worked on one and I quit.
Really? What'd you do on it?
I location manage.
Okay. You manage their locations. I just want to be in one Hallmark movie as like, just even the friend, a stoner friend. No, they wouldn't have stoners, but
you wouldn't be stoner.
Yeah, no, you can't be a stoner. So just a lazy guy. I'd be the lazy guy.
I wouldn't piss on Hallmark movies if they were in a dumpster fire. That's how
just so angry.
Yeah, I think they're the worst. One of the worst things.
There's no conflict in them. That's what I love about them. There's no conflict. It's false reality.
Yeah. Whatever, it's paychecks for people working on them. That's what matters to me. Sometimes the quality doesn't matter to me. It's more so, hey, it's employing a bunch of people. That's good.
Exactly.
Let's talk about some of your acting things, though, because there's some funny things. I remember back in the day, I used to see you played a castaway guy, and I think it was an OLG commercial, maybe, or a Proline commercial, and you were on a beach.
A Subway commercial.
Was it Subway?
But it was for Subway. Yeah, because it was like the idea was like, I'm on this deserted island, and I'm like, God, I wish I had a sandwich right about now. Gotcha. And then I'm dreaming about a sandwich from Subway, and then I'm just chewing on driftwood.
I wonder if we can use that clip. Can we use that?
I wish. Like, that's the darkest commercial I think out there. You know, my character's gonna die on that island, right? You know, he's gonna die. And they're like, he just wishes he had a Subway sandwich, right? And he's like, sandwiches can come true or something like that.
That's wild.
Yeah, during making that commercial, they shot it in Montreal. And
really?
Yeah, they kind of modeled it after like the actual, like, you know, when you get to see behind the scenes and how they put it together, a lot of it they modeled after, do you know The Far Side?
I do know The Far Side, yeah. Love
those so comics. You know, like there's the cliche Far Side comic of just that small hump of a deserted island with one tree in the middle.
I've seen a bunch of those, yeah.
And that's exactly what they modeled it after.
That's nice.
Was like
that's great.
The guy, yeah. And,
hey, listen, anybody who takes inspiration from something like The Far Side is like, that's comedy genius. So I'd be like, I'm in good hands. I don't need to worry about this.
Right? I don't need to worry about much. Gary Larson is on my side right now. Yeah. But yeah, when I was there, they were like putting makeup on me, like to make me look like I was burnt and tanned, right, from being in the sun. And the lady, she was applying the makeup, and she's like, you know, this is the exact same makeup we used in the movie 300 that was shot here. And I'm like, oh, great. I look nothing like those guys, right? Like, I'm just like this fat guy. But I'm kind of maybe like, I do have I wouldn't say a high standard. I have my own unique standard. Because like, but yeah, as far as like comedy, I'm like I remember watching, and it made me realize this one comic was on stage telling his jokes, right? And he's on stage telling his jokes. And I don't know if you know Winston Spear.
I don't.
He was he's a Canadian comedian, very, very funny. He does a lot of dancing, but he's like in the back of the room just killing himself laughing. And I'm like, what? Well, this comic's on stage bombing. And I'm like, what's so funny? And he's like, these are the jokes he thinks is funny. And I'm like, that is really funny.
That's funny.
But yeah, right. So yeah, I take it as, because it's not necessarily the material, but almost the comic and the audience relation, or even just like social situations. Yeah, I think anything can be funny. Everyone wants to.
And don't get me wrong, I love to laugh.
Everything can be funny.
I love to laugh. I love laughing. It's the best thing, but it's harder. It kind of reminds me of a John Cleese quote where he says something like, the older you get, the less funny things get because you've heard everything a million times. Kind of depressing, actually, a little bit, but.
Well, it is depressing, but that's also funny into itself. The person who can't find anything funny, like, because comedy is all conflict, right? So the older you get, if you don't find things funny, that situation is funny because it's like, poor guy can't find anything funny. Nothing's funny to him.
Good point. I want to ask you about some of your acting stuff. We mentioned the Subway thing. You had another one. You have a great look, and this is a character's name, shipmate, or dock worker, or plumber. You know, you fit into those categories great. Like, obviously, you were cast for a reason, but those are pretty great.
Yeah, usually for casting, it's funny how when going to casting, you realize how the world views you.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I go as drug dealer, homeless guy, homeless drug dealer, right? Like, I'm like, oh, I get it. I get how the world views me.
Oh, this one's great. Guy with bags on his feet. What the hell was that?
That was another one where I'm like a homeless man just passing by the scene. Like, I was just and the shipmate, I get killed within the first 30 seconds of that.
What was that? A commercial or a show?
The shipmate one? Yeah, that was on Taken, the show Taken. I was I find a bunch of guns, like a shipping container accidentally crashes, opens up, and there's a bunch of guns, and I'm like, oh my god! Right? And then I see the bad guy being like, you shouldn't have seen that. I'm like, please don't shoot me, I have a wife and kids. Right? I just get.
You didn't, but you were just trying to.
In my mind, I'm like, I'm a good man.
Well, let me to be a stand-up comedian, you know, to tell stories, to have a unique and funny perspective on life, you got to have some interesting jobs. I've had a hell of a lot of jobs. security guard, call centers, stuff like that. Some of your past jobs, some notable standouts for me. Dirt factory.
Oh yeah, the Dirt Factory was one of the originals. That was the original job I had. It was here in Manitoba, obviously, where there's tons of dirt, tons of soil to be moved. And so basically, bagged dirt that you buy at grocery stores or wherever, like big department stores. I'm the guy that put that there. And I remember showing up like hungover so many times. And we'd sometimes puke in the bags with the dirt and just seal them up and send them off and just kill ourselves laughing, right? Probably the person finding that bag of dirt with puke in it was like, oh, it's got Miracle Grow in it.
I showed up to work. I worked at a country club golf course one summer, and I showed up to work probably still drunk. And I was riding the kind of dune buggy sand bogger to kick up the sand in the bunkers. And so I did the first hole. You just spin around. You just go in circles because this thing's got a very tight turning radius. Yeah. So you're just going in circles, scraping it up and making the bunker sand fresh. And then, so I remember I finished the first hole and I'm driving down the second hole fairway. And I just woke up right in front of the green. And I just turned at the last second. And yeah, so I fell asleep for like 15 or 20 seconds of that ride just at the country club. The worst, like nothing happened. I didn't get caught or anything, but it was pretty, I was like, yeah, this is what I need to tear up the greens at the country club for my summer job.
I'm just making them, making the course more challenging.
Oh, I had so many complaints about my hole placement there.
Really? You had bad hole placement?
Bad hole placement, yeah.
So would they entrust you with the hole placement?
Yeah, they didn't trust anybody. A newcomer, anybody. Yeah, go do this, go do that. It wasn't run. It wasn't a very good operation being run. The guy, his shirt was always untucked. He was always a mess. His hat was always like up and sideways, and he was always taking it off and throwing it on the ground and yelling at people. That's the guy who ran the place. So.
Who was the Yosemite Sam? Tarnation, jumping on his hat, and he's like,
that's pretty much. But the best thing was we had a little. The crew got together and played golf after one day, and the hole right outside, like the greenskeeping where we worked, the bosses all came out to like watch us, and I hit as close as you can hit to a hole in one. I hit it was a par 3, so it was a very short distance, maybe 150 yards or something. And I just used an iron and it just landed right beside the hole. And everyone was like, fuck you, basically. Like they were pissed that I impressed because
You purposely placed the hole there. I purposely put that there.
It was honestly the most magical shot other than a hole in one. I actually did get a hole in one at a golf course called Root River on hole number 3. Got a hole in one in my life. Thank you.
I'll give you a golf clap for that one. That's a good.
Thank you very much.
By the way, with that close to the hole in one, did you end up like 4 putting?
No, I slipped on my way to the green and I had to carry me away in an stretcher and ambulance.
As you're being lifted away in the gator or whatever they have, you're like thumbs up. I'm okay. I'll be back to golf another day.
I did do a thumbs up. I just mentioned this recently. I was part of a T-bone car accident I was the victim of. And we got T-bone. I know, hilarious. We got T-bone on my side.
Well, I know you're okay. I know you're okay now.
We got T-bone on my side and I was concussed bad. But once they took me away, they had to use the jaws of life to get me out of the car. And once they took me away on the stretcher, I was given the old thumbs up as a joke, kind of. I was just like, this is hilarious. I know I'm kind of okay. I'm going to give the thumbs up for anybody watching. I couldn't see or whatever, but I was like, I hope they get it.
They're like, sir, can you stop this? You're severely concussed. And you're like, as soon as they open you up with the jaws of life, your hand comes out with the thumb. Yeah. Sir, this is serious.
It was pretty surreal. Got some great stories from that experience.
I'm glad you're okay.
But we'll save it for another day. Some interesting stuff, though. Beyond the grave stuff.
Oh, did you die?
Well, we'll get into it just for a split second. Basically, I was living in a darkness, but I could still hear. I was conscious within my concussion. And I knew that because I could hear. And afterwards, I asked my parents, I said, you know what's the weirdest thing? I heard Uncle Terry's voice. And they said, oh, he was the first officer to arrive on the scene. So I was still conscious within my concussion because all I saw was black. I remember It was like my eyes were open within my body. All I could see was black, but I could hear. Very strange. And I woke up to them being like, okay, he's awake. He's awake. And the paramedics were like working on my neck and trying to get me out of the car. It's crazy.
That is crazy. Yeah. No, like that. It's amazing what your mind is both capable of and capable of forgetting.
Speaking of death and
Yes.
maybe breaking your mind, getting back to the jobs, funeral home.
Oh yeah.
What did you do at a funeral home?
Well, that's the family business here in Manitoba.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So if you look up Jamieson's funeral service, that's my uncle's.
I should have
my uncle's
drank
place.
Jameson.
Yeah.
I drank Jameson. I drank a
Get that
shitty
next
drink
time.
that I didn't want to drink to try and get rid of it a bit. I'm drinking Collingwood. Have you ever had Collingwood whiskey? It's awful.
Collingwood. No, is it from Collingwood?
I think so. I think it is. Yeah, Collingwood, Ontario. So sorry, Collingwood, but
Yeah.
you're not going to be a sponsor
for
of the
sure
show.
not sponsored by Collingwood.
Who knows? Maybe their whiskey's so shitty it will be. They're like, still give it to him. He's talking about us.
Yeah. When I like to plug my nose and drink, I drink Collingwood.
It gets a little bit better as it goes, but that's probably because I'm just knocking myself out with each sip.
Exactly. You're huffing gasoline.
Funeral home though is interesting because I was just talking about this with someone, like death and taxes. Funeral home, great business to be in,
Well, anytime. Yeah. Like people are always, I don't know if you know this, but people often die.
Yeah.
And,
a lot.
Yeah. Then, yeah, a lot of times. Like
business
everyone
is booming.
once in their life will at least die once. I can guarantee you that. And yeah, and people like to throw parties. So you're basically like a afterlife party creator. Yeah. So it's weddings. My uncle, he does the makeup, and on his wedding day, his best man broke his own nose, right? And my uncle's like, "Don't worry, we'll get rid of your black eyes. I can put makeup on you, but you have to lay down in order for me to do it." So he had him lay down and painted him up.
Yeah, it must have been like a little bit of an out-of-body experience. Pretty sweet though.
Right.
Saved the day.
All right, save the day. He looked like a corpse, but like $1 million corpse.
And that must help with the comedy, growing up in that kind of scenario or situation.
Well, it helps with comedy in the sense that death, it is sad, but you're kind of around it a little more, and it becomes more normalized in a way. And it also helps, I guess, in the sense that not everyone gets to experience that when growing up. Like usually death is hidden from the kids or whatnot. So you can have more of a learning or understanding when you're younger without actually truly experiencing it, I guess. So you kind of know of it. It's like, I don't know what it would be equivalent to, but yeah, I think it definitely helped with fashioning a little bit of the humor within me.
And what about pornography store?
Well, that was that one was like a wealth of comedy in there, because I applied, like when I moved to Toronto, a bunch of places when I was in college, but I applied too late. So the only places that hired me were Costco overnight stalker or the pornography store. I'm like, well, I got to take the respectable job and work the overnight stalking, right? That was the worst. You talked about leaving your Hallmark job. That was the only job I've ever walked away from. I just left Costco, and I'm like, I can't do this. This is god awful. And then I worked at the pornography store. Best decision I made at that age. Like it was just so much. Because no one in the pornography store wants you to talk to them. Yeah. So I spend all my time writing jokes in that place. And like the characters that would come in and like the things you'd experience, I'm like, this is an insane place. Like it's so funny. Like,
and you're not going to have like a boss hovering over your shoulder, like fucking sell those the things sell themselves.
We need to get the DVDs off the shelf. Yeah, we need to sell. The bums and gums section is really piling up here, right? And then there was like viewing booths in the place, like the place that like that's so gross, right? There's viewing booths, and then this one this one Russian lady ended up working there, and she's like, you know what the place needs? Mints. So she put mints in a container, but they weren't even wrapped mints. They were just those.
And now she's the CEO.
Yeah, now she's the owner of that place.
That's great. I just want to hop into a segment here called Topics Not Trending. Okay, this is someone you would call to your house if you're having trouble with the lights or you want to hook something up.
Electrician.
In the panel. So, nice easy one. What can we say about electricians?
Well, they work with floorers sometimes. I'll tell you that. My brother tells me all about that. He's like, the electrician came in today. I had to rip up my perfectly good tile job just to get at the underwiring of the house.
Okay. These one word.
Yeah.
These are items that you put on as like toppings on food to make them a little bit more delicious. They come in ketchup, mustard, relish.
Condiments.
We're on fire today. I don't know if it's me. I don't know if it's you. We're getting good words. We're going.
No, because we're just talking about mints at the pornography store. Condiments.
Condiments. They come in here. We need condoms. We need mints.
We need mints. There they are at the pornography store.
That's
both unwrapped, which were weird. You know what's funny though too is what they say about mints is when you come into someone's house or something, you know it's going to be a boring adventure if they have mints out because they put mints out to be exciting. So it's funny that she would think to put that at the porno. Like we have enough to do. Whatever people are doing here, I'm sure they have enough to do. Like not even hand sanitizer.
Who are they going to be talking to?
All right, exactly. Who needs fresh breath in the pornography store?
This is a couple of words, like kind of 3 or 4. So kind of like Quentin Tarantino's newest movie about the film business.
Once Upon a Time. Okay.
Yeah, except you would kind of use that verbiage, but this is like something that doesn't happen very often. You would say it happens
once in a lifetime. Here and there.
Close. So very close. You had it close with the first one, but it's not lifetime. It's think more Moby Dick.
Once in a while. Once you said Moby Dick, and then I was saying while. I didn't even need whale as a I didn't even need that. But yeah,
we crushed it.
And we did pretty good. Would we get all the points? It's a type of truck and a legal picture, like a legal semi truck, like a lawyer.
It's just that thing. What's that? It's like in Harry Met Sally. It's like a baby fish mouth. Like you're just going so fast, you don't know what the fuck you're saying or what to guess.
What they're saying. Your mouth is just going.
Or Simpsons, and he's like, "That's dignity. That's how you draw dignity."
Or even Family Guy. Family Guy. When it's like, Jackal. Is it Jackal? Jackal? Is it Jackal? And he's like, it wasn't Jackal the first 20 times. Why would it be Jackal the last?
You were a founder of The Boom. That's kind of like an Upright Citizens Brigade or a Second City or a performing comedy troupe. Is that it?
Yeah, mostly the comedy troupe side of things, not an actual institution.
Right, gotcha.
But yeah, what we kind of made ourselves do, which helped to get a crowd, was we made the shows just a party, really. So yeah, it was a lot of like putting on these sketches that were almost Jackass-esque and very risque and vulgar and a lot of fun. Like there's a sense of danger when you watch it. Like even when performing, I got pistol whipped and I split my eye open. Wow. And like continued the show, and people were like, "That was amazing." I would there's ones where I would shotgun 6 beers with the element of, or the wanting of, puking on stage, because who pukes on stage, right? And I ended up puking into a pitcher and then drinking the puke, which and then puking the puke. Anyway,
that's like Vince McMahon, where he's like, he's gonna puke. He's gonna puke.
Yeah. Where you're called puke. But yeah, it was a ton of fun, and I really enjoyed that time in my comedy career for sure. Looking back at that, yeah, you sold mentioned out, like every show was sold out pretty much, for 6 years at that place. Yeah, supermarket.
Where was that?
At the supermarket, and then the Drake Hotel.
The Drake. Gotcha. So you mentioned risque a little bit and stuff. How do you find walking on those eggshells in this day and age where everybody wants to cancel you for everything? Like I'll probably get canceled 6 times for this episode alone, you know?
Yeah, that's fine. You get canceled, you put yourself back on. Yeah, get yourself out there. But there's always going to be a market. And like when we look at our stuff, we never really, I mean, you can be vulgar as much as you want. And like people love that. Like even today, you can still say whatever you want. It's just, it just about how you go about saying it, I think is what it is, where people are getting called out. Yeah, my comedy's never been about, like I'll use words that I know people will think that I'm going to say something offensive, but it never actually goes in the wrong direction, I think, if that makes sense. Like I'm very hyper aware of what I'm saying and doing. And I really kind of like, I don't know, I like that element of danger where it's like, in the sense of like, you could say the wrong thing and the crowd just loses it.
Tell me about, I listened to Born Crying, Die Laughing. That's your new comedy album out.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a music comedy combo with Sporadicus?
Yeah, the band Sporadicus.
And where can people get it?
They can also, you can also find it on any streaming platform. You can also purchase it at, I believe, on Amazon Music and or Apple Music. You can actually purchase the albums there. Also, I was looking it up and just finding where to find it. And there's some Japanese websites. You can find it all over the world, really.
Where did you record that?
We recorded at 2 locations, a place called the Peacock in Toronto. That was the second recording date. And the first recording date was the Underground Comedy Club. And the Underground is a weed lounge that's no longer around because of COVID. But it was an amazing space, almost like a modern day speakeasy. When weed was illegal, Joey, the owner, she would put on, or Puff Mama, she would put on shows in the back room, and people were allowed to get high back there and watch these shows.
That's in the East End, right at Broadview. I've
Yes.
been in there a couple of times. That place was great.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I loved it there. It's the best weed lounge because other weed lounges, people were there all day smoking weed. And by the time you go on stage, they could have been there for 4 hours getting high. So they're just falling asleep. Whereas there, they come for the show.
There were some great characters, though, there, too.
Oh, some amazing characters.
Some dark corners.
Also there at the Underground, comics from all over the world, since they don't have this, like, let's say in the States, big names would show up there.
Yeah, they would drop in. That was very cool, yeah. And
so
that's such a shame that place shut down, because all these people are starting all these things. Oh, this place is shutting down. Do a GoFundMe, a couple bucks here, a couple bucks there. Surprised no one helped out there with that.
Well, I think her goal was to move a location, because I think it was coming to an end at that particular location, and then COVID was just the catalyst to kind of be like, all right, we'll close down and then we'll move somewhere else. Because I sure hope she does. She'll hope, and I'm sure she will open up again. Because that place was the greatest. She's always supported live comedy, so that's why I recorded at that location. Plus, also give it a little magical vibe of everyone kind of in the crowd being high.
Some of your gigs, I gave you an intro at the beginning, CBC Comedy, Sirius XM. Where does all that stuff come from? Are you like helping out on a radio show or something like that, or?
Where all that stuff comes from. So like XM is simply, another place where you can find I should have said that. Another place where you can find my stuff is on Raw Dog Radio, and which is on Sirius XM. They picked up quite a few stuff off the old album, and then a few tracks off the new album, more of the jokier ones. And then,
because it's a music comedy album.
Right. So they didn't pick up the songs like the ones that are more song-like, but they picked up more of those rambling sort of joke telling ones. Right.
I heard a few of the song ones. I like the song ones too.
Oh, the song ones.
They're fun.
Because I auditioned for CBC, for showcase for them to get onto the Winnipeg Comedy Festival, and I did the song "Image of God," which is the fuckface one.
Yeah.
Right. And I did that one. And the head of the Winnipeg Comedy Festival came up to me during COVID when I met him. He was like, "Oh man," he's like, "that song "Hey, you fuckface" was stuck in my head for a week. He's like, "But you got to understand, I can't put you on TV with that song." And I'm like, "Yeah, I get that. I understand."
Yeah, but you know what? As long as that person likes you, though, they'll keep you in mind and find a place for you, or they'll shoot for you next time or something like that.
Exactly. That's what I'm hoping for. Yeah, and as far as the CBC, you can also check out. I did some things with the comedy portion of it's called That Guy. And if you look up That Guy on YouTube or Facebook, it's basically me screaming and yelling at random things. Because there was this guy Ryan Long. I don't know if you know Ryan Long. He's a comic from Toronto now, lives in New York. He's very, very successful now, fairly successful. And he did this thing called Torontopia with the CBC, and it was kind of like a knockoff of Portlandia. So it was like a lot of Toronto stereotypes and that.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, the producers of that people at CBC really enjoyed what we were doing, and he then pitched me as a character for something. And so they said yes to making a mini web series called That Guy, and that's me. And another thing you can check out that isn't out yet, but I don't know if you can see this thing you've been staring at the whole time.
Yeah, I was wondering what that is.
Yeah, so it's a band. There's a band called Rager. Are they real? Who knows, right? But there's a group called Banger TV in Toronto. They're based out of Toronto. It's a heavy metal sort of online magazine documentary series creator, and they got greenlit to make their first sort of written comedy web series, and it's called Heavy Metal Hitchhiker, and you might recognize who the Heavy Metal Hitchhiker is. Yes, so we just filmed that during COVID as well.
Nice.
Definitely check that out. I don't know when that will come out, but I can't tell you any more than that.
Oh man, well this has been great, chatting and catching up a little bit and hearing a bit about your story. There's one thing we do before we go, and we're going to step into the Gauntlet.
Oh my Gauntlet.
Welcome to the Gauntlet.
Thank you for having me here at the Gauntlet. Do I look gaunt enough?
We'll find out.
Okay.
Garrett, where does the time go?
Out the window.
What's your favorite way to waste time?
To waste time is simply by kicking back and being on podcasts.
Why are we here?
Why are we here right now? Because the simple question would be, or answer would be, you asked me to be here, and I said yes. And then I'm like, is this 1 p.m. Winnipeg time or 1 p.m. Toronto time? And you said 1 p.m. Toronto time. I said, okay, perfect. I'll be here. But why are we here as a human being? I think it's to collect information and to literally experience and kind of come back to another realm or world with learned knowledge on what it means to be human. Okay, that makes no sense, but also that's life. It makes no sense.
I love that. What's the most useful thing you own?
The most useful thing that I own? Oh my God. Well, I guess I own my own body. That's the thing that I own, my brain, but I didn't purchase it. If you're talking about a purchased item, I would say my phone is the most useful thing I own. That I purchased myself.
Would you own your own body, or would it belong to your parents?
Well, technically it belongs to your parents up until you're 18. That's the law. And then it's your own body after that. You can do with it whatever you want to. And that's why I find it funny when there's laws against you doing things to your body. You're like, I can do whatever the hell I wanted to this thing. And then for someone to say, no, you can't. You're not allowed to do that to your body. And you're like, go to hell, man. You don't own me.
You don't own me.
I'm not a tract of land.
That's great. What noise do you love?
What noise do I love? I guess simple farts. Farts are funny. Like the sounds of them. All of them, like the ones that go like this. like those ones that really escape, or like those ones, or even just like a silent one that goes, right? Those is the. So I like noises that are funny, and farts are the simplest, and there's something that I own. I own that.
And finally, what does the world need most?
For sure, love. I know it's cliche, but that's what the world needs now is love, sweet love. I think if you do anything out of love, I think. We were talking earlier about how you can get shut down for. I think if you do comedy out of malice, that's when you'll get called out. If you do comedy out of love, you can't go wrong. You really can't. And even you can roast people out of love because you pay so much attention to them. You know their ins and outs, and you can make fun of them because they know that you love them. And yeah, I think love is the thing, and it's as cliche as Hollywood and everyone says, but that's what it needs the most.
Alrighty, everyone. Thanks very much. We had so much fun tonight. Thanks again to Garrett Jamieson. Always a pleasure. And we'll see you
so
next
much.
time. Take care.
Take care, everybody. Have a good one.
I think that went pretty well.
Is this thing still on? Are we going to do my thing now? No? I got to do the flooring bit. Garrett. Okay, well, I guess... you're still recording, though. I guess I'll just say, hey, you can follow me at GJ Flooring on Instagram. GJ Flooring. It's me. It's just me giving flooring tips, like, make sure that the ground is level. And if it's not, then you...